Hey everybody, it is Corey Poirier. We are live. I am back. Kelly and I, Kelly Falardeau, who you'll see here in a minute when I welcome her on, just did a training earlier today on across social, well, actually inside a private Facebook group. But now we're going live with some of our bLU Talks community members. We have Kelly as a bLU Talks community member interviewing Nancy as a bLU Talks community member. If you heard that noise in the background, that's my 2-week-old son who's visiting me here in the office. We are real world these days. So, but having said that, this is actually the first bLU Talks live interview that we're doing inside both the group and doing across my various platforms. This is something we're going to be doing twice a week for the foreseeable future, where it's an opportunity to introduce our bLU Talks speakers to the world, our bLU Talks authors to the world. You will note that we do have our bLU Talks virtual events where we do something similar, but the difference here is we're actually going to be doing this weekly, whereas that event is just once every 2 or 3 months. So it's a little bit different that way. bLU Talks, if you're new to this, if you're new to either me or this community, bLU Talks, essentially how I've been describing it is it's like if Chicken Soup for the Soul and TED/TEDx had a baby, that will be bLU Talks. So the big difference is that in the TEDx and TED world, they don't focus a lot on spirituality, and they don't focus a lot. They openly say they're not looking for inspirational speakers. And so with bLU Talks, kind of the difference is we want to embrace the spirituality side if people want to talk about that, and then also the inspirational side as well. And so bLU, in fact, stands for Business Life Universe. So that's what the acronym spells out, Business Life Universe. And bLU Talks itself, for some of you, you've been following along in this journey. For you, you probably feel like this brand has been going for a long time. It'll surprise some people to know that we haven't officially launched yet. We're launching next week on Tuesday, but we've been building up toward this for close to a year. We actually filmed the first videos, the first live talks almost a year ago. And it kind of gives you a feel for how long we've been building towards this. So for some people, this will feel like the brand's been going a long time. The virtual event we did recently was kind of an unofficial launch. So we are building towards that, but I just want people to know bLU Talks has arrived. You know, we're a week away. We're just going to start in the next week or so. You're going to start seeing the podcast come to life. You're going to start seeing the book series come out. It's already ready to rock. You're going to start seeing the live videos that we filmed almost a year ago that you've been wondering what's going on with those. Do they exist? All that stuff's going to start playing out next week. We're scheduling the next virtual event for September, so we're only roughly a month away from that as well. And then we're launching these interviews every week because I want a chance and an opportunity to introduce these bLUsters to the world. So that's a little bit about bLU Talks. You can find out more at blutalks.com, and that's bLU without the E. We're still even building the website as we speak, but you can go on there, and if you scroll down, you can actually, the newsletter will pop up, and you can join the newsletter and be in the know of all things bLU Talks. But again, watch for the new book. That's going to be on Amazon and the website. We actually have a special website for it. Watch for the podcast. That's going to be on iTunes, and watch for, of course, the videos. They're going to come out on YouTube, and all this stuff will come out in the bLU Talks website as well. So that's all things bLU Talks for today. One other quick thing, this is my cheap promotion, plug, if you will, about the Book of Why and How. What I wanted to do today, just before I hand over the reins to I'm going to call her my co-host, but really the interviewer for today, is what I want to do each time is read or just talk about something really quick from my book, The Book of Why and How, because I'm kind of seeing The Book of Why and How as the sponsor for the bLU Talks interviews. So having said that, the thing I'm looking at here is the fact that practice does make perfect. So I talk about in the book, Malcolm Gladwell talking about the 10,000 hour rule, if you guys have heard about that before, or Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect. So Darren Hardy was the publisher of Success Magazine. And basically he talks about how if every day you do one small thing towards a certain goal, over time it'll be almost unrecognizable how much of a difference you'll see after, let's say, a year. And so he used the example of 2 people working out, and how one person working out for a year, they do small little things like a little workout every day for a year, and you don't see a difference in their body day by day, but over time you see a dramatic difference. But he said the opposite. If you pick the opposite person that wasn't doing the workout and they were just eating chips on the couch and pizza and lasagna and what have you for a year, they would be the exact opposite end of the spectrum. So one guy or girl would be way fitter. The other person would be obviously quite unhealthy. So, but yet you don't see them because it's small little things, but they compound over time. So what I want to leave you guys with today is to think about, if you just watched, whether it's these Blue Talks interviews, but if you just watched 1 or 2 empowering things a week, and you're not doing it now, or if you add 1 or 2 more empowering things a week, or if you watched a Blue Talk or a TEDx talk daily, what would your life look like in a year? If you're doing that thing, whatever that thing is, for a half hour, it wouldn't seem like a lot at the time, but I promise you, when you are into like 3 and 4 months, you're now taking all the knowledge you learned from those previous interviews and previous stuff that you've learned into the next one, and it starts compounding. So what I want you to think about is, what are the small steps you could take today that if you built them and compounded them and worked on them over 6 months or a year, that could change the game for you. That's what I want to leave you with, as I now welcome on our 2 esteemed guests here today. I'm in fact going to disappear, but thank you so much, Nancy, for being the inaugural or the first Blue Talks interviewee, and thanks to you, Kelly, for being the first Blue Talks interviewer. Having said that, I'm just going to let you guys run with it and jump backstage. I'll still be here if you need me, but I'll let you guys take over. I'll leave it in your capable hands, but thank you. I salute you, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. So I'll let you jump right in, Kelly, and then I'm going to jump myself off here in a second.
Okay, great.
Okay. You can jump right in, Kelly. I'm just taking me a second to...
Okay, so, Nancy, you and I haven't met before, and so I'm really excited about this because I'm going to get to learn more about you. But, what I thought we would start with is what Corey was talking about. Practice makes perfect, and how we just need to take small little steps to accomplish a big overall goal. So, I thought I would lead with that. Is, what are some small steps that you've taken to overcome and, accomplish a big goal?
It's interesting because probably one of my challenges was that I have so many things going on. So I'm an administrator of a school. I do consulting work. I am a mom, and my kids have various needs. And then I also run a business where I do soul telepathy readings for people. And so that's really where my heart is. And so that whole doing a little bit of something every day has actually been my motto, especially with my Nancy Inspired business, in that every day I try to do something that moves that along. Whether it's setting up a space to work in, or whether it's even challenging myself to meditate every day, but to try and find that balance. And it really has helped me to sort of focus my energy and allow it to grow. And it is quite amazing how, just from the initial start of deciding, okay, this is what I actually really want to do. My mission in life has always been to inspire, depending upon what I was doing. I used to run a dance troupe, and our whole premise was to inspire people. So no matter what I was doing, it's of inspiration. So I had to realize that even if I wasn't following specific goals for a particular business, it was about cultivating myself as a person, as opposed to just what I'm doing, but who I'm being. So that if my business is to inspire people, whether I'm doing it at my job as an administrator, or at my job as a consultant, or doing readings for people, or just who I am in the world, I'm constantly taking steps to always be the person that I want to emulate to other people, in order to be that person that's inspiring.
Right. It's cool. It sounds like you're like me in the fact that we have to have multiple things on the go. Like, I'm very much the same way. I'm a, TEDx speaker. I am a coach. I'm a painter. You can see one of my paintings in the background, my little fairy. And, I'm an author, 6-time best-selling author. And I find I need the variety.
I do. 100%. But what I find is that
I get bored, and it's like, oh, I need something else to excite me and keep me moving forward. So
it's that momentum. And at one point I used to think I was scattered, but I'm not. Everything that I'm doing has that same purpose. My whole purpose on this planet is to empower other people. And so whatever it is that I'm doing, and so now I realize that instead of feeling like I was actually scattered and kind of like a bit of this and a bit of this and a bit of this, all of those things are doing the same goal, just in a slightly different way. So now that I've kind of honed that and focused that, I'm able to, I feel like there's a lot more momentum now as a result.
I totally agree with you. In fact, it's funny because the one thing I used to hate about myself, I actually learned that I love about myself now. Same type of thing. I always felt like I could never stay in one thing more than a year or two. And I would hate that because I thought, just like you, I'm too scattered. Nobody's going to want to deal with me because I'm scattered and I don't know where the heck I'm going and what direction I'm going.
Talented, not scattered.
Yeah, but really, I love it because, for example, when COVID hit, I was able to pivot and go right into book coaching because I wasn't stuck in one lane.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's go back and talk a little bit more about your story because, like I said, I've never met you. I don't know anything about you. And I want to learn more about you, just like the rest of our audience. So why did you want to get involved with bLU Talk? Tell us more about that.
Well, there's so many little tendrils that have led to this. So I guess, like I said, my whole mission, no matter what I'm doing, from a very small child even, has always been to lift other people up and inspire other people. And I just did it through lots of different avenues, right? Well, about 7 years ago, I was given a gift. I'm saying that kind of loosely because there's a whole story to that too. I've always been very intuitive. I've always been very empathic. I've always, as a child, I have lots of I have lots of interesting experiences that I could share that were a little bit unexplainable and things like that. About 7 years ago, I had an experience that, actually probably about 10 years ago now, I had an experience where I was kind of thrown into my gifts even more and developed them. And as I've been working with them, and now it is my side business, Nancy Inspired, doing soul telepathy readings, which I can explain later. I've had to figure out how that fits into my daily platform. And it's a bit difficult to explain, but I know that part of my purpose is to reach the people that are not usually open to the spiritual side of things, and so the type of people that when you say I do soul telepathy would go, huh? Those are the people that I know I'm supposed to touch the most, right? How do you do that?
Kind of like the non-believers, right?
Exactly. Because of what I do and how I do. And it's funny because it is moving that way. And then the more that I've done readings, the more that I do, when I do my workshops and consulting, I've had people come up to me and say, I just like listening to you speak. I could listen to you speak about anything. And I realized that I have a message. I have information. And for a long time, I doubted, well, what do I have to say? Who am I to talk to people? But the more I talk, the more people want to hear me. The more people want to hear my message. The more people want to be touched by it. So I started investigating as to, well, what does that look like? And again, synchronicities, I won't call them coincidences, but synchronicities led me here. And Corey's work through Rosalind Fung and a bunch of different kind of channels. But I've been guided, for lack of a better word, I've been guided into, I know that I am supposed to be reaching people and empowering people. And I do it on a one-on-one basis, or I do it in a school setting or in a consulting setting or teaching workshop settings. But I'm ready to do it on a bigger scale now. And this is a step towards that.
Cool. That's exciting. I know I've heard that comment way too often in my circle where people have said I'm playing too small. And
yes, so, I'm told that all the time.
Right. And sometimes it's like, well, how do we play bigger?
And it's a lot about, for me, it's about believing in myself. Okay, I'm actually going to share a little story for you because this is the story that I'd like to contribute at some point. But I was actually out in Ontario visiting a friend, and my friend was working during the day, so I just got to kind of explore. And I went for this little hike, nothing like super spectacular hike, but it was just a little hike up a little mountain to a little waterfall kind of brook thing, very pretty. And the whole time I was walking, I was asking, like, what's next? What is my next step? How am I supposed to reach people? How, like, introduce me to the people I need? Like, how do I do this? And kind of talking to myself, to my guides, you know, to source, like, where's the direction? What am I supposed to do? What's next? And I'm walking and enjoying the nature, and I get up to this beautiful, beautiful brook. Not, like I said, nothing huge. It wasn't Niagara Falls. It was just this beautiful little brook. But it was really beautiful space. And I found kind of a log to sit on, and I'm sitting there and I'm just enjoying the space and little frogs and little things. And I'm noticing people sort of come and go. There was a family, there was a photographer. There was like, I'm not really interacting. I'm just in the space and just being really present in that space. And I remember there was a gentleman kind of a little ways away from me. And the only reason why he stood out to me is because in my mind, he looked like he was Indigenous. And I do some work with the Indigenous, the TQS and stuff for teachers, like helping to embed First Nations, Métis, and Inuit perspective into curriculum. So my thought all of a sudden was, oh, what Indigenous groups are local to where I was? Because I know here it's one. And so that's the only reason why he stood out in my mind, is because I started thinking, you know, which Indigenous groups are local to the area. And I wanted to remind myself to look that up. Other than that, there was no interaction. There was no eye contact. There was no anything. That was the only reason why I noted this man. And then, you know, I'm back kind of in my own little world, just acknowledging the space. And at some point I noticed he was gone, didn't really pay any attention. Then all of a sudden I hear, hey, and I looked up and he was across on the other side of the bank of the section, probably good, you know, 25 feet, 30 feet away from me. And he said, hey, and I looked up and he said, thanks for showing up. And I was like, you're welcome. Like, it was just and I said, yeah, you too. Like, I didn't know what to say, right? And then I thought about it and thought, what an odd thing to say to someone, like, just thanks for showing up. But then I started thinking about it and I was like, thanks for showing up. And I realized, and then I started thanking myself. And I was like, thanks for showing up here and taking a chance and being in this space. Thanks for showing up in the different areas of my life that were challenges. You know, I was in an emotionally abusive relationship. My children have gone through various significant challenges. And I've, you know, in each one of those things, I've had to show up. But I realized that I was also always allowing myself, people always ask me, how can you be so positive all the time? How can you be, you're always so positive. How can you? And I realized that I also show up to the little things. I show up when I'm watching my granddaughter splash in puddles, and I show up, and it's about that showing up. And so I started thanking myself for showing up to the challenges and the positives and just genuinely showing up to my life. And I realized that that's one of the messages that I want to share and to help empower people to show up to their life. And I don't mean that in a like, come on, suck it up, show up. I mean, be present, right? And when things are crappy, be present in the crappy and show up there. And when it's positive, even if they're fleeting moments, show up in those positive moments. And so it was just a really empowering, and never saw him again. He walked away. Like, there was no other interaction. That was it. He just said, thanks for showing up. And then he walked away. And it was just it felt like such a divine message. And it made me go, all right, I need to now work on how do I show up into my purpose, which is to reach people and help them be empowered to show up, you know, and how do I do that? So that kind of launched, you know, deciding, okay, I'd like to do more speaking and public speaking, not just my consulting work and workshops and things, but actually that empowerment speaking, where it's not on an educational topic, but on a broader topic, on a life topic.
You know, I love that, because a lot of times we hear a message and we don't always pay attention to it, and we don't see that there's a deeper message that goes along with it. And, you know, I call it one of the whispers of the heart, where a lot of times what's happening is we're getting these signs of things we're supposed to do or directions we're supposed to go in, and yet we don't want to pay attention to it. And so you, like, for example, when I went through my divorce, I said, okay, universe, like, I need a cheap place to live, right? And then all of a sudden my aunt said to me, you know, Kel, if you need a place to live, I've got one, and you don't have to pay. And I was like, oh my gosh, right? So here was that showing up, right? That tangible message that came to me. The universe doesn't go and say, okay, I'm going to send you an email, and what's going to happen is your aunt is going to tell you you have a place to live. Well, that's me giving you a cheap place to live. You better take it.
Exactly.
Right?
And sometimes it's not subtle either. Like about, and this is why, like with podcasting and public speaking and stuff, about 4 years ago, see, it takes me a while to like internalize and go, okay, yeah, now I actually have to do it. But I've decided that's where that one step each day comes in now, because it's like, hey, I need to just do it. But about 4 years ago, it's kind of a funny story, but I was single at the time. And I went to New York with my sister, and my sister and I are very, very, very different people. And we get along fantastic, but we're very different people. And she had all these different tours set up during the day, and then at night she liked to, you know, be home and relax. And whereas I wanted to go out a little bit and see like some of the nightlife of New York, but I wasn't really comfortable doing it by myself. So I thought, I'm going to go on Tinder New York and see if I can find someone to hang out with. So I did. I went into, and I purposely was like, hey, I'm not looking for a hookup. I'm in New York for like 5 days, and I just want to go see a little bit. And I met different people. And what was so amazing, and the reason why I'm saying this is because the first person that I went out, and everyone was just lovely and really nice people, gentlemen, that we went to just little pubs and different things and good conversations. But the first person, he was like, your voice is so relaxing. I could just listen to you. Like, I just enjoy the sound of your voice. And he's like, have you ever considered podcasting? And I was like, no, I've never really thought about podcasting before, you know, but he's like, yeah, just the quality of your voice. I would listen to it. And so I kind of went home and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Or went back to the hotel. The next night, the person that I ended up meeting was a podcaster. And I didn't know that. And we ended up having a really nice evening, talked till like 3 a.m. about inspiration and whatever. And he was like, have you ever considered podcasting? Like you really have a great message and you really have lots to share. And, you know, and I was like, you're the second person that said that, you know, just yesterday, someone said that. Up until this point, I'd never even considered it, right? I never even thought about it. Then on the way home on the airplane, I was sitting beside a woman who was a bit of a nervous flyer. And she's like, do you mind just talking to me like during the takeoff and the landing? And so I said, sure. So I just was telling her like silly travel stories and just chatting. And she's like, have you ever considered doing a podcast? Because I, you know, and I was like, okay.
You need to get hit by a head over the head by a or something.
Okay. Have I done a podcast yet? No, I experimented with it a little bit and got kind of a taste for it. I was like, okay. And it's definitely something I want to do. But the whole public speaking and podcast. So sometimes the universe is not so subtle in how it gives you your messages, but it really is up to me now to show up, right? I got the message. Okay, I have things I'm supposed to share. I have the skills that I can do it. Now I have to put the work in. I think people just expect that these kinds of things just happen and you're just, there's a lot of work that goes into these things. And I just have to day by day, take a chunk and make it happen.
Right, exactly. You know, and like you're saying, it's the signs, they're there, but sometimes we pay attention to them and sometimes we don't. And it's just so funny that, you know, here the universe is like kind of hit you over the head with a 2x4.
Literally, yeah.
You know, so, but you know, sometimes it's not the right time, right? Like, you know, it's something you want to do.
I think I needed to understand, and it because that was 4 years ago. The just show up message was 1.5 years ago. And I think I needed to understand, because my issue with doing a podcast, because I do lots of educational consulting work, but that's not where my heart is. The reason why I like the education and consulting work is because it's about empowerment. It's empowerment of teachers and empowerment of children. And but I would like to do it on a broader scale. But I didn't really understand what it was that I had to say, or that what my message was. I knew I had a message, but I didn't fully understand what it was. And then now I feel like I understand more. So that was the initial hit over the head. You need to do this. And then over the last little bit, it's been germinating. Okay, what is my purpose? What is my message? What is my method of empowerment? So
why don't you share with us? What is some of your messages that you want to share?
Well, that's what's actually interesting, in that it's had to be a little bit about trust. So a thing about me and my gifts, what I do is I channel, right? I'm a channel. I'm not a medium. I channel the people that I'm working with. I mean, I've always done it. Even as a kid, I didn't know I was doing it. But I'll just share a little story from university. Was my first real experience where I was like, I have no idea what just happened there. But I was working with a partner on a project, and in all honesty, I was being lazy. I didn't really want to do it. You know, I'll own that. I didn't like the content. It was like a special needs assessment course, and I didn't really. Anyway, and my partner was like a super go-getter, keener, worked super hard. She did most of the work, and I did very little. I'll be honest. I'm not normally like that, but in this particular assignment, I was. And we were presenting, and this particular professor was not a friendly, warm person. In fact, she liked to blow holes in people's presentations and wasn't always very nice about it. And so I'm watching these groups go up, and then her just rip them apart with their questions to the point that they're like, and stammering. And I'm just like, oh, I am so done. I didn't even barely do anything on this assignment. I'm not gonna be able to do anything. So we get up there, and I was actually feeling bad for how I had let my partner down. And I just kind of said a little prayer almost, and opened myself up and said, just help me get through this and do what I can. Because I knew that I was good at knowing what to say in terms of when I needed to say it. Like I knew I was good at that. So I'm like, just help me to know what I need to say. And it was so interesting because all of a sudden everything slowed down. And I remember this so clearly. It was like being in a dream. I became acutely aware of everyone in the room. And it was like I could hear their hearts beating. I could feel that, like I could feel everybody. And as I kind of scanned the room, I sort of stopped on the professor. And I don't know that I even heard what she said, but she asked a question, and she asked the question to me. And I don't know, I was so calm. And like I said, everything was slow motion. I turned to my partner and said, it's okay, I got this. And I just started talking. And I don't even know what I was saying. I just was talking. And then at the end, the professor stands up and she starts to clap. And she's like, now that's how it's done. And we sat back down, and my partner said, how did you, actually said, how did you do that? And I was like, I have no idea. But I realized now, because of my gift, I tapped into her and I channeled what she wanted to hear. And I was able to just say what she wanted to hear. I had no actual knowledge of it. Now, fast forward now. And so my whole mission is to inspire. I was given the gift of what I call soul telepathy. And so I am able, even in group sessions, like when I'm speaking to a group of people or one-on-one or couples or whatever, I'm able to tap into what is the most relevant information for them right now. What is the thing that is their, I'm not going to say issue, because sometimes it's just a motivator. Sometimes it is an issue. Sometimes it's an obstacle. Sometimes it's just something, validation they need to hear. But when I'm working with a collective, I'll say to myself, what is the most important thing for the group to hear right now? And I'm always able to tap in. So what I've learned over this last, I'm going to say even within 6 months, I've been doing this work for 7 years, but in the last 6 months in terms of public speaking, I trust that what people need to hear, I will know what needs to be said. And the more I trust that, and because at the core of my being, it's to empower people, I trust that what I am meant to say is what will come up. I hear it. I'm told, share this story. I'm told, you know, and I feel it. I feel it in my body, and I tap in. So the more I trust that, the more the amazing experiences are. I just recently did a Facebook Live on somebody's platform where it's like a wise women circle, and she's got, you know, 3,000-4,000 followers. And I did a little live, and I did it as I'm just going to open myself up and channel what needs to be said. And numerous members of her group messaged me afterwards going, I feel like you were speaking right to me, that I needed to hear that, and stuff like that. So I do get the validation regularly that that's what I need to do. I need to stop worrying about my part of the equation and trust that I am about empowerment no matter what I'm doing. And that's going to come out in any message that I give. So I have to just trust that, which is tricky sometimes.
Absolutely. But, you know, sometimes that's the best way. I know sometimes people will ask me for a script of my speech, and it's like, I don't have it, because I'm very much like you, where I just trust that my heart is going to say what the audience needs to hear.
Because you'll hear it, you'll feel it, and you'll get the messaging to come out. And it happens every time. And now it's been a long enough time that I can consistently say that it happens every time. I've never had an experience where I felt like I didn't connect with the audience, or I didn't connect with the person, or I didn't connect with the group, or whatever. I've never, knock on wood, I've never had that experience. And so now I'm at the point of trusting. So now I'm putting myself out there into platforms, even like you. I message you, I'm like, so what are we actually talking about today? And there was no part of me that was afraid. There was no part of me that was like, oh no, I'm not prepared. It was like, I know I'm going to know what I have to say because of who's listening. So whoever is listening, I'm talking to them, right? And whatever it is that they need to hear is what's going to, because I have so many, like that's when we briefly talked, I was thinking, okay, well, if we go into leadership and empowerment, I can talk about that. Like if it's more of a business thing, I can talk about empowering employees. Like if it's about life, I can talk about leaving an abusive relationship. I can talk about dealing with drug addiction in family. I can talk about LGBTQ stuff as my son, you know, came out in various, like, so, I mean, there's so many different aspects of my own life that I can draw upon in order to inspire, even as a dancer and a performer. And, you know, as a writer, there's so many different aspects. So I know, just trust, just be in my own presence, connect to my soul purpose, which is to inspire and empower, and it will happen. I just trust.
Okay, so one of my final questions is, what kind of message do you think the listeners need to hear today? I know yesterday I heard you talk about on Facebook Live, you were talking about love, and it was about self-love, and it was about how you need to love yourself more and love what you're doing and love who you are. So what kind of message would you want to give
today? You know, it's interesting because when I do those collective readings, right? I was actually getting my eyebrows done, and this woman said, "Are you an intuitive?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I do readings and stuff for people." She's like, "Because I'm getting a message for you." And she's like, "I know that sounds weird, but I'm getting a message for you." And I was like, "Okay," like I'd never met her, doing my eyebrows. And she's like, "Have you ever heard of collective readings?" And I was like, "No, not really. What do you mean by that?" And she's like, "You're supposed to give a message out to the masses." And I'm thinking, based on the kind of work that I do, I'm like, how do I do that? And so I tried it. And what happens is I feel a message. So each week I do a collective reading where it's like, okay, what do people need to hear today? And so yesterday's reading was about love and doing everything from that perspective of love. So let me just tap in for a second and just see what's the reading for today. All right, so I feel it in my solar plexus. So I use the chakras when I feel it. I feel it in my own body. And the first thing that I felt was fear and self-doubt. And so what I'm hearing is the message today is to stop doubting yourself, to recognize that you have a soul purpose, that you are on this planet for a reason. And the gut feeling that you have, that is your soul purpose, that is your soul purpose. And to not doubt it and to live in that space. And I'm also hearing to ignore judgment. The people that say you can't do this, or that's ridiculous, or that's silly. And I'm actually hearing right now that even the your own voice, that self-talk, that the people in your life that have told you, no one wants to hear what you say, or you can't do that, or whatever. And so what I'm hearing is to that fear and that self-doubt, to name it. Is this a societal concern? If I do this, then I look irresponsible. Is it a family voice, something that you've been trained to listen to believe, and to figure out where those fears and obstacles are coming from. I feel it in the solar plexus, the sense of, oh, I can't do that, And what I'm hearing is to trust yourself. Trust that you have a soul purpose, and you know what your soul purpose is. You might not know what it looks like, just like the stories that I've been telling, which makes sense in terms of the stories that I decided to tell today. It's about not really knowing the steps, not really knowing the message, not really knowing what you're supposed to do, but feeling the direction that you're supposed to go. And I'm hearing to trust that, and to not allow self-doubt and external, I'm hearing a lot of external, like judgment and voices, not allow those voices to have room, and to allow that light to grow from the solar plexus. I can just feel it like, and allow it to grow. And you may not have all the answers. You may not know all the steps. You may not know exactly what you're supposed to say or what you're supposed to do, but to trust that you actually do know, and that as you take those steps and as you move forward, it's going to become more clear and the doors will open for you. That's what I'm hearing today.
Oh, amazing message. I love that. So, and especially with Corey's message in the beginning was, practice makes perfect, and that, what small steps can you take today? And so I think your message today really fits in well with the message that Corey gave us in the beginning of the show.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Which is probably why it all synchronistically works that way, because that's how it works.
Exactly. I love your message because, I think we all have a little bit of self-doubt. And the problem with the self-doubt is that it holds us back from moving forward, and it holds us back from taking that next step forward. So I think
we have all the answers before we take those steps, but we don't. We can trust that the answers will also evolve with us. We just have to follow that light where you know you're supposed to go.
Very, very true. My ex-husband is one of those guys that won't do anything until he knows all the steps, right? And I'm the person that's just jump in. Let's just do it. The steps will come, right? The universe will provide everything as we go.
I grew up being taught you needed to know all the steps before you do anything. So there's still some of that in my brain, but my personality is jump in and just do it. And so every time I jump in and do it, it works out. I'm starting to go, okay, I don't need to know all the steps. It's going to work out. I know what I need to do. I'm here to inspire and empower, and that's who I am. And that's what I do no matter what I'm doing. So it'll make sense. It'll all come together.
It will. It will all come together. We don't always know the how, but we just need to ask the question, how can I do it? And then the universe provides the answers, or they give us the people that we need to help us, or that sort of
the inspiration, those moments, that fellow that said, hey, thanks for showing up, that made a huge impact. No idea who he was, never spoke to him, never saw him again, but that thanks for showing up made me go, right, thanks for showing up, and I need to continue showing up. And I hope anybody listening to this today takes a moment to really show up to whatever situation they're in right now. Good, bad, challenge. I don't like using good, bad, because everything's relative, right? But whatever is going on right now, I hope everybody listening takes a moment to show up to whatever moment it is.
Well, and I think nowadays too, we are struggling with the whole COVID thing, and some people are seeing it as a real blessing and something that's amazing, and other people are like, I don't know what the heck to do with myself or my life or my future.
And it can be both at the same time.
Absolutely. And so your message about showing up is all about us also showing up and seeing the good, or seeing the reflection, right? Like that to me, that's what this time is all about, is really reflecting on our lives and making those changes that we were too scared to take before.
Absolutely. And taking the obstacles or the challenging situations and showing up to those too and going, okay, what part of this can I change? What part of this can I affect? Is there anything that I can do to make this better? You know, and so it's not always just about, because I sometimes err on the side of trying to find something positive out of everything. But sometimes it's about actually showing up to that challenging obstacle and going, okay, what am I learning from this? What am I growing from this? And how can I be empowered to change this? Or can I use this really crappy situation to then turn around and empower someone else who's also in this crappy situation, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's about showing up and not just sunshine and rainbows, but just really showing up. And how can I fully be present and living in every moment, you know? And
it's also about seeing the other possibilities in the world.
Absolutely, because there are always a million sides to another story.
Yeah, I have these little stickers that are on my door, and one of it is about, you know, what other possibilities are out there. And I think that is what this time is all about. It's all about reflecting on what those other possibilities are for us, because a lot of us are just stuck in dead-end jobs we hate, or toxic marriages, toxic relationships, and we're just too scared to take that next step.
Yeah, and to be empowered to show up. And that's part of my work. Like when I'm doing my soul telepathy readings, they are always about empowering the person to show up to the different aspects that are going on in their lives. So it's always, that's the feedback I always get, like on my website and stuff, is people just say it's empowering. I felt so empowered. I understand where direction I need to go. I'm so empowered, or inspired, you know? And so it's about being empowered to show up, because sometimes it's hard to show up, you know?
Exactly. And, you know, and that's the whole Blue Talks book and the whole Blue Talks event. That's what they're all about, is empowering and impacting people in ways we never thought.
I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm excited to be a part of it, because we need more of that. And I love that the guidelines are loose in that, like I said, what are we actually talking about today? What's the topic? And it's like, I like that it's open, that it's evolving, that it's about empowerment, but the platforms can come in different forms, because depending on the audience on that day, who needs to hear what they need to hear, right? And so I love the format. I'm very excited to be part of all this.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you a part of it. I love your messages, and it just seemed like everything just tied in quite good together, you know, with Corey's message, and then your reading for today, and the showing up part. I believe we all owe it to ourselves and to everyone else to show up. So it looks like we've got Corey coming back on. So
Corey showed up.
Yeah, I showed up. I heard somebody saying thank you for showing up, so I thought I better show up again. And it's so weird when you have three people on. I'm trying to perfectly balance myself.
Spencer, yes, I'm.
that might work better, or that works better. There we go. So I mean, really, I didn't have much to add. You guys crushed it. I just wanted to thank you both for being open to doing this. And I think you now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been listening in, but I've also been sharing stuff. But did you cover, Nancy, how we can learn more about you, where we connect with you, all that kind of stuff?
Not really. I do have a Facebook. It's Nancy Inspired. And then my website is www.nancyinspired.com, because that's my business, is Nancy Inspired. And then I also have an Instagram, which is Nancy_inspired. So I would be happy to hear from people. And if anyone is interested in a soul telepathy reading, I would be happy to do that. I haven't done yours for you yet, Corey, so we have to arrange that. So
yeah, I saw your message, and yeah, I'm planning to reply and just trying to figure out the best time, but I'm all in. Very cool. Well, thank you both so much. You guys are great representatives of Blue Talks and this whole community. So I thank you for being you. I thank you for joining us and being here today. Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in, checking this out. I always try to remember that there's live and the replay. And in fact, it's amazing how many people discover the replay. So thank you for joining us, whether it's live or in the replay. If you have questions after the fact, I'm sure if you tag Nancy in or Kelly in or myself in, we'll circle back and answer those questions. In the interim, if you want to know all about Blue Talks, the best place to go is bluetalks.com. I'll put the link here in the comments just before I jump onto my next thing. And you can find out what we have coming up. But really, depending on when you see this, the launch is upon us. So you're probably going to see it all over the place. But either bluetalks.com or we have a couple of virtual Facebook pages. So pages where we have those set up for the virtual events. So you can search Blue Talks and some of those will come up as well. Or feel free to reach out to anybody in the Blue Talks community. I'm sure they'll steer you in the right direction. So thanks, everyone. Thank you, Nancy and Kelly. I appreciate you. I'll let you run. I'll let everybody else run. And keep making magic happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much for letting me do this. It was lovely to meet you as well, Kelly.
You're very welcome.